Rayleigh with Speedboat Magazine here with another episode of the Boats and Bros podcast with my bro Myrick Coil. And we have with us 6-7-time UIM world champion racer Shaun Torrente. How are you, Shaun?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? How are you
Good,
guys?
man.
Doing good. Just got done with work, got home, and then tried to come up with some questions that I didn't know about you. And there's actually quite a few things I don't know about you.
Well, I don't know how you're home and done with work. You're a business owner now with Performance Powerboats, so that never stops, brother. I know that because I'm a business owner, so it don't ever stop.
My phone's
There you
right
go.
there. The phone's
There
right
you
there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. Speaking of your business, helped Performance Powerboat / Right Performance / all of us out so much with your innovative stuff, and even the things we're working with, the plungers. I ran them today; they work a lot better. So,
well, that's going to be added to. We just finished the housings today, so I'll test those this weekend. So hopefully we'll get you some out next week. But yeah, man, we've talked before, Myrick, but I'm just a boat dork. I love messing with stuff and trying to make it work better. And my life's changed so much in the last 7 or 8 years. I used to dream stuff up and then have to borrow a machine at the aerospace place I worked at to make it, you know what I mean, or figure out how to get some material to do it or go to a buddy's job shop and get it done. And then I just took the plunge and bought a machine and put it in my garage and started making stuff. And to where we were, 7 years ago, compared to where we are now, me and my wife are constantly amazed at just, I got 13 guys working on boats all day. We tested 2 race boats today, and when I dream something up, I can draw it, program it, give it to my guys, and come back the next morning and it's made, and it's pretty damn amazing.
So, are you actually drawing it on the computer, or do you hand sketch it and then have an engineer or somebody that's a little more savvy with the computer do it, or are you the one that's actually drawing?
So I can't. So my wife and daughter are amazing artists. Really amazing. They are so talented. My daughter's been able to draw like perspective since she was like 3 years old. I can't draw a stick figure unless it's on a computer. I taught myself CAD when I was in aerospace. I taught myself SolidWorks, basically because I have a racing issue and I have no patience. So I didn't want I couldn't wait for the engineers to draw it. So I would just draw it myself, and then I taught myself SolidWorks to do that. And then I became really good friends with the head machinist, and he taught me how to run the machines and stuff. All that was about 12 years ago. And so I use that kind of as a jumping off point. So when I wake up in the middle of the night at 3 or 4 in the morning, I'm usually up every day about 4:30, but usually about 2:30 or 3, I'll start kind of rolling over. If I come up with something, I'll just walk right out in the kitchen and just start drawing it on the computer, kind of get a sketch down or get it roughly down because it's going through my head. And when you draw it, it kind of comes to life and you can see it. But I'm still a believer in prototypes and stuff because everything looks great on the computer. But, when you hold it in your hand, you go, oh man, that's too small, or oh, that ain't going to work. Or, there's just a million different things you can do. So I used to do everything. I used to draw it, program it, make it on the machine, and then go test it. But like I said, now I have a lean machinist named Candelario Rodriguez. I actually hired him right out of tech school about 6 years ago. He's my lead in the back. He's amazing. And I basically just hand it off to him. I'll program about 75% of the parts still as far as in the machines, but the rest he'll do. And then he'll optimize out there for production. And then Nick and Ian and myself or Termite, my driver, will come out and test it in the afternoons usually. So I try to be in there by 6, and then I try to be here at my house testing usually about 1 or 2, and we usually test 3 or 4 days a week in general.
That's awesome.
So it's like I said, man, I tell people all the time when they go, oh man, do this, I go, man, I get to live my dream every day. I get to play with boats, figure them out, and me and my wife bought a property on the river here where we test, and which is right in Fort Myers, and there's no speed limit behind my house, so I literally built a ramp and we can test right here, put it right on the lift. We have one of your boat brands on the lift right now, a 32 Sensation. We just put brackets on that we're testing,
Nice.
so we put it on the lift because we got to mess with it tomorrow.
That's cool. What kind of area? I know you say it's a river. Is it 2 miles long? Is it 4 miles long? What kind of area do you have to test?
It's about, I believe it's 140 miles long. I can go from my house all the way to Stewart. You have to go through a few locks, but I can go all the way to the East Coast.
Wow.
If I want to go through Lake Okeechobee. But the cool thing about where I live is it's about, I would say it's about 150 yards from the first lock. So the water is basically fresh, but but I'm unobstructed to the Gulf, and it's about 9 miles to the Gulf.
Oh, that's
So
dope. So you get to
yeah,
flush it out on your way back.
so I get to run my beautiful MTI with my wife on Saturday. We do a fun run out down to Naples in the saltwater, and then the last, I would say 6 miles is, well, now 4 miles is fresh. So we let her eat to about 130 and just let her get all flushed out, and then put her on the lift, rinse her off, and we're done. It's awesome.
That's cool.
What do you have now? The 440, Shaun?
Yeah, I got a 440 with 500s, which is
500s.
why me and Myrick have been messing with poppet valves and plungers, and we've, Myrick is very, very humble, but we become the test arm sometimes of big companies.
Yeah, especially when it's a new product. You start to learn it, and as soon as you start to learn it and start to figure out the little things, they'll come out with a new product, and then you're behind the 8 ball again.
Exactly. And customers, when they spend all that money on a brand new set of motors or a brand new boat, they're just like, well, it's going to be 10 mile an hour faster, right? Like, yeah, we're getting there. We're working on it.
Oh, yeah. Nah, I was testing that 360 today with the 500s of Lambs. I'm getting more speed out of it. One thing I do notice is the mid-range power and how great it is if you're crossed up, how much more power it has. But the whole idea of having 100 more horsepower and it being so much faster from a 450 to a 500, it's not there yet because we got a bigger gear case. We got to try to figure out what diameter propeller, what raker propeller, all that stuff to make these things handle correctly. And I tried to get Shaun's secret props, but he wouldn't give them up. I won't tell you what he said.
Yeah, we'll tell what they are. Don't say what they are. But
that's funny.
At STR, we've done, I think, 8 500 repowers on 7 390s and 1 Mystic. For the first one, the 3800 is an older one. The Mystic
probably
was the
like
biggest.
The big power, yeah.
Oh my God, night and day. The boat was a 97 mile an hour boat with 450s every day, and the best I ever ran was 103. We bolt the 500s on it, a couple little mods like what we talked about with pop valves and stuff, so it didn't have any issues, and it went 119 or something. Yeah, well, 119, and then with his props that he had every day, we went 113 or something. That used to go 103. And all we did was respline those props. So he didn't have to buy a set of props. It cost him $2,000 to respline them. We machine them and respline them, and then he's good to go.
I know a lot of people are going to be asking that because I have been asked that because I have walls of, 400 cut, 300 cut, that with the smaller prop shaft. And they're like, what do we do with these? So there are going to be people out there to respline them. And do you have to use an adapter of any kind, or
nothing?
Do you?
So
nothing.
We basically do a machining where we cut it to a new ID on the inside of the prop, and then we had a new broach made to broach the new spline. So it's just like, and then weld the cap back on the front. So it's just like it's just like buying a new one from Mercury, really.
I see.
But the way that we normally do it, if we do a repower market, is we'll do like this one set of props they had with 450s. We'll do one set like that, so they have a set of spares for $2,000.
Yeah.
Instead of $10,000,
it makes
and then
sense,
buy a new set of props.
Yeah. I should know this, but I don't even know what a broach tool looks like to cut a spline. So I'm gonna have to YouTube that to see what it looks like when it actually goes in.
It's really fancy. It just pounds it right through the dam and moves.
Really?
It just looks like a prop shaft, except it's a cutting version of it. And
it's got like harder tips on it. Yeah.
Correct, and it's hydraulic, and it literally just plows right through the damn prop.
Yeah. Wow.
Shaun, I assume when you say machines, you have like mills and lathes and CNCs and the whole nine at this point?
At this point, we have 4 4-axis mills, 1 CNC lathe, and then a bunch of other just random stuff. But those are the main machines. And I started out, like I said, 6 years ago with 1 small mill in my garage that my daughter and wife had to listen to after work, before work, and on weekends. So first year, I've told the story before, but first year, I made 60 brackets hoping to make 15. So I said, if I make 15, I can just pay the note on this machine, and we made 60, and it went really well. Nice. And then just to give you an idea January just finished. So January, we did 82 brackets in January this year, plus all the other stuff we did. And we did a set for for performance powerboats too. So it's always good.
Is that what the deal was? Did you see like a void in the marketplace where they just didn't have the brackets that were up to your standards and decided to start making them
No, I
yourself?
just got lucky. No, it's racing again. I just got lucky. We had to race overseas. We switched from an XCAP from two strokes to 400s that they made for over there, those ROSs. And there was nothing that could really hold those properly. And then we had to change setbacks and stuff. So I basically took something similar that Victor was making. I was racing for them at the time, but they weren't making them. And I changed it for kind of our market because I knew that we were going to need them on pleasure boats. And so I designed it so that it would work on pleasure boats here, and be something that we could use all the time, and then put it on race boats over there. And we raced them for, I would say, a year and a half. And I changed the design probably, I don't know, 11 times, just little things, making them better and easier to use and more robust. And then about a year and a half later, I started selling them here. Or, like I said, first it was a couple race boats. Gary Ballou was one of the first guys that bought a set from me, which was really cool. Gary, back then, I wasn't racing here in the U.S., so he was the man in S-Class. So it was a big deal that he bought some, and I appreciate that. And then I was selling stuff overseas, and it just kind of snowballed from there. One manufacturer became another one, and everybody's done such a good job just building boats and making a really nice product, from MTI to performance to, to DCB to skater. I mean, just everybody's really stepped up their game. It's just, I say it all the time. I do driving schools. I got to do one tomorrow. And man, 10 years ago, you couldn't even be sure that your boat was going to run all day. Nevertheless, 2 days to get, and be comfortable and go run it, which is really cool. So it's just, like I said, it was just timing. It was just timing and luck and a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Nice.
Speaking of that, I've seen it all over the place now that you did it as the electric boat in the shootout. And one day we're going to be looking back and thinking, man, that was innovative. And now, I don't know how many years it is out, but one day there will be electric boats that can go on a poker run or something like that. So
absolutely.
cool.
The electric thing I love because people get all pissed off, and I enjoy that. Like they get so butthurt, and I don't know why. I'm like, they're like, oh well, coal this and coal that. And I'm like, man, you think I'm doing this to save the world? My dumb ass ain't saving the world. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that right now. But it is cool, number one, and it is fun to do something different, and it's cool to go fast. And on top of all that, Vision's a really cool company, and I believe what they're trying to do. And then the kicker to all of that is like, I get paid to do it, which is crazy. So like how I want to see any of those guys get angry, like turn down a good, really cool, fun project that's well funded, which is Myrick, man, it's hard. Like we talk about doing cool stuff all the time, but it's hard to get people to fund that. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
How did you get tied in with Vision Marine Technology and Alex? Because the first year it was with the Hellcat, right? And then last year it was with your S2 Powerboats.
Yeah. So what happened was actually a guy that was helping them and kind of connecting them to people is a guy named Randall Truesdale, who ended up becoming my GM. So I met Alex and them through him because he knew of me, and we started talking, and I wasn't sold. I wasn't going to do it. And he convinced me to come to IBEX. And then I went to IBEX and talked to him, and I still wasn't convinced. And then he's like, please stay for dinner. And I did, and I stayed for dinner and met the rest of his people and all that stuff. And honestly, Alex really convinced me. He's one of those guys that's not going to take no for an answer. He wants to get something done, and I could see that he was going to see it through. But at the time, I didn't really totally agree with some of their choices. Like even the first boat, I had nothing to do with that. They had already commissioned it, they had already paid for it, and it was already going. And I loved Ray at the time. That was the guy that owned Hellcat at the time. He was a good dude, and he was a hustler, and I appreciated that. But I had run the boat with him, and let's just say it wasn't
power, you mean?
No. Hellcat.
With the electric?
No, just 300s. 300s on a Hellcat. That's all it was, that newer wide body, the one that we ran with electric motors, but his first one. And it just wasn't where it needed to be, in my opinion, you know, and I think that they could, and he was trying hard to make it better. And unfortunately, we lost him in the middle of all that. So he put a set of 450s on one, and I kick myself to this day. He was on me to build him some parts for it, and I did. And I told him, I said, Ray, man, don't put 450s on a thing and go test it. Like, don't. Like, it's not right.
It's
the
too
up
much.
button, yeah, and not only that, you know, Myrick, when you run a boat and the up button fixes it, that's never a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you need to hit the up button to make it go fast, it ain't gonna end well, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways, I told him, you know, just be careful, you know, whatever, and building the stuff, and he went out, and unfortunately he lost his life. And that's kind of, you know, it's unfortunately one of the only parts of my life that I regret in any, not necessarily regret, but wish I could change, is that through my life and all the awesome stuff I've got from racing is the people that I've had to lose, the people that are close to me that I've lost during the way. You know, it's terrible. You know, it's just the only part I wish I could change. So that happened. And so I wasn't 100% like sold on doing it with that. And so I finally agreed to, with a few, you know, requirements. Myrick likes those requirements, by the way. I send them whenever someone asks me to do something. So so we did it, and it was honestly a real success. Like, it was really fun to do. It was like, what I learned that first year was just incredible. And I just love learning new stuff. Like, the amount of stuff I learned about inverters and electric motors, and how you got to keep battery packs cool. And, you know, these 400-pound, that's what they are. They're 400 pounds each battery packs that are 800 volts that are sitting next to me, and, you know, drawing 400 amps that basically will kill you before you even think about what's going on or even realize what's going on. So, and then all the safety that goes into that. It was just an amazing project. Now, man, I'm so thankful to be able to do it. And then they signed on and took a leap of faith on us and bought an S2 before it was even a reality. Like, they saw renderings. That's all they saw. So when someone has that kind of faith in you, like, you can't help it, but, you know, do whatever you can for them. So when people attack them and say things from our community, oh, that's stupid and this and that, well, you know, it's their money, and they have a vision, and they have a business plan. And, you know,
I remember the same thing when they were talking about the Tesla car. And now,
exactly.
I mean, however many years ago it is, I don't know, but I can remember. And I even thought it myself, you know, I'm like, electric car, whatever. And now they're the fastest
I did at first
production.
too.
Yeah.
So I did at first too. And then, so during COVID, I bought a Model S, just a regular Model S. Okay. I ended up giving it to my daughter now. And I said, man, I got to check out this electric thing, because everything, you know what I mean? At that time, I had started to get some whatchamacallit, you know, just some momentum. And so I bought it, and I bought a used one because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. And dude, I'm sorry, like, it's the best thing to drive every day there ever was. I leave every day with a full tank of gas. You plug the son of a bitch in when you get home. You ain't never got to stop anywhere. All the tech inside works awesome, just like your iPhone. So I ordered a Plaid when they announced it, and I got it. And when I got a Plaid, they're not a car company, first of all. Okay, they're a tech company. So when I go to pick, they're supposed to deliver it to me. Then they call me and they say, "No, can't deliver it. We don't want to take the risk. You're one of the first ones. Blah blah blah." Okay, no problem. I'll come get it. So I come get it. They basically throw the keys at you. It's not like delivering a boat. Okay, they throw the keys at you. They show you how to work the screen, and that's it. You're free. So I leave the dealership. I just spent all this money on this car, and I go, man, I don't know if this thing better be worth the money. Like, I have no idea. And dude, I stabbed that thing the first time, and I was just giggling like a 10-year-old kid, going, I can't believe they'll sell this to me. Like, this is stupid.
Yeah. And same feeling you get when there's a boat in 1550 mode, that giggle.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't believe they let me drive this thing.
Correct. Or in my world, like in Formula One, like, you know, you nail it the first time, and you go down the straight, and you're like, man, I don't know if something's wrong with this thing, but if it don't stop accelerating soon, I'm going to die. And that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, that is an amazing feeling. So the Plaid is the same way. It's stupid fast. I took my wife, who I love to death, to dinner with the first night in it. And she goes, and she's yapping away because she talks a lot, because she's my wife. And so she's yapping away, and I just stabbed it, and she choked on her own saliva. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Okay. It was, and she got so mad at me, and she was hitting me. And the car is awesome. So I still have it. I drive it every day. Like I bought it I was like, if I don't like it, I'll just sell it because people wanted them. And dude, I won't let that thing go for anything. Like I love that car. It's the only car I've ever owned that if I don't drive it for a few days, I'm driving a truck, I'm like, man, I need to drive my car.
That's cool. That's cool.
great.
And, with the innovation and the dreams that people have, and whether they can fund it or can't fund it, that's the way to be open-minded about things, because it's hard to understand where we're going to be one day.
Shaun,
Exactly.
since you're the only one that has piloted that electric boat to those speeds, tell us what that feels like driving that boat down the shootout course, going that fast as compared to like 450s or 500s.
So it's weird. It's an opposite sensation the way the power brand works. So when you first nail it, it's like all there. And then as you're pulling, so like in a normal boat, like a 500 boat now, 539 is amazingly quick now. So like 539, you nail it, and boost comes on about 70, 80 mile an hour. It wakes up and it really accelerates, to as fast as you want to go, but it really accelerates in that mid range. And yeah, it'll slow up on the top end. The electric boat is not like that. The electric boat, when you nail it, it's kind of like the car it's all there right away. And then every second that passes, you're actually losing a little power due to heat and battery and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So you have to prop it differently. You have to gear it differently. Like it was definitely a learning curve.
Say you're going 30, 40 miles an hour. Does it have enough power and torque to blow the props out, or does it still bite pretty good?
No, yeah. Like if you have it, when Pat Wiseman built us the overdrive stuff, so we could change gear ratios quick.
Mm-hmm.
We could gear it to where it would annihilate the propellers at 40 mile an hour, and not very low either. You know what I'm saying? Like it would just annihilate them. And that same propeller, on a 300 stock boat, you could hit it in, you know what I'm saying?
Lock right up. Yeah.
Nothing's there. Yeah, exactly. So it's just different in that way. And then you have to monitor the so many different parameters compared to a a normal ICE engine. You're worried about battery temps and voltages and amperage draws and all that stuff is what you're worried about. It's just completely different. But it was, like I said, at the same time though, it's just neat to do something that's so different than what we normally do. It's just fun to do it. And we did water pickups on the transom because you just got to cool the batteries enough, and so that's closed loop, and then the motors are open loop. So yeah, it's just a different deal.
So with that, I mean, when you're going down the 3/4 mile course, you get to the speed quickly. Are you able to sustain through the 3/4 mile, or do you have to?
Oh yeah, so that's the balance. It's the balance of enough propeller, just like normal on that. You know what I mean? It's having enough propeller that you're going to get the speed you want, but not being too short. That you know what I mean? That you get there
timing it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's a give and take on that deal. It's how much power you have versus how far you got to go. It's the same thing. It's all acceleration. That's why, people that never have done the shootout, they'll say, that 450 boat, for example, went 121. Well, fuck, we've gone 130. Well, yeah. You've had 3 miles to get there. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. In a big power boat, I can usually tell them. Let's say it's something with 1350s. I'll go, you're going to go 20 miles an hour slower than you think, and they're like, "Oh, no way!" I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to go 20 mile an hour slower," and they're like,
exactly.
I was like, "It happens so quick, you can't even realize, how fast you got to accelerate to be even close to what you want to run."
Well, at 120 miles an hour, it's a football field every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you're going that fast, they don't realize how the ground they're covering when they're making a pass, just normally, just to see how fast they're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
They don't realize the ground they're covering. 3/4 mile ain't that long.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it a lot more when it was a mile, but, it does give you more time to screw up with the mile. And,
it does. And the thing is like you said, especially now with the amount of power that's available, just, off the shelf, basically, it's difficult to allow people that don't have enough experience to give them that kind of space.
Yeah, I totally get it. And a lot of the times is, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when the boat runs out of power, that's when you start making changes that, whoa, now it's chine walking, or now it's, dumping air out of side to side, and even a cattle chine walk if you get it on its
Oh, yeah.
nose enough. So, so that with
Well,
the
you close that
3/4
door on an outboard cat to make it go fast. It's gonna be dancing around and 4-pointing. But
Yeah.
the other thing people don't realize, if it does run out of propeller, and then you're trying to make it go faster, you're losing leverage. It ain't going any faster.
Yeah.
That's all it's got. So you hit the out button one time, there's a good
Yeah.
chance you ain't gonna come back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Shaun, what did you say? It's 4-pointing?
Yeah. So
Can you explain that?
yeah, so the first time, I'll never forget it. Randy sent me his first 39. It might have been his second, but he sent it down. He said, "I want you to run this thing and tell me what you think." And at the time, I had a flat deck skater that I built. They called the Unicorn with 450s, and I ran 135 in it, and it was super fun, but it was little, and it was a great boat, but it was just small. So he delivers this 39 to me, and Milton drops it off, and I look at it, and I'm like, this thing's a behemoth. Like, it's massive. I've never seen anything this big with outboards, and I'm like, if it goes 120 miles an hour, it'd be awesome, So I said, well, I got a set of 36s and a set of 35s. Let's throw 36s on it. If it pulls those, it'll go 120 something. So that'd be awesome if it does that. Put it on the river. And I'll never forget, I have Eric Belial with me because he had one on order, and he was going to race with me that year. And we put it on the river, put 36s on it, go down the river. It goes like 127, and I hit the down button, and it just gets on its nose, goes 129, and it's 4-pointing. So what 4-point means is you get the boat level. When you shut the door on the tunnel, all that air that's escaping out the side can't go anywhere. So now it's got to go out of the back. So you can literally feel the back of the boat pick up, and it'll usually gain a couple mile an hour until it overheats because it's out of water pressure because you've lifted the back of the boat. But what it does is it just 4-points. So it'll go nose, tail, just like that, just rolling. And when you're running those big secret props that Myrick can't have, that are too big for 450s, you get it literally. It just aerates the prop, so it'll pick up 50 or 100 RPM every time at 4 points, and the speed will just keep coming, and it's just a race against the clock until it goes into Guardian because it's over time.
Yeah, it's a balancing act.
That's it. But so like a 44 is like, it doesn't want a 4-point as much, but you can put it down on the nose, and it's like hitting a nitrous button. That son of a bitch just lifts up and gets happy and takes off. It's like it hits another gear.
I was talking about that today. Do you think that is because obviously it's a lot of boat design and a lot of research in it, but do you think with a longer boat, it spreads the load out more evenly and kind of just floats easier than a boat that's shorter and lighter, that's like more likely to different effects or different variables can really affect it, like a side wind or little things that make the boat do stuff? If you spread it out and get the compression just right, it just is easier to not 4-point and let it carry.
Yeah, so I think it's just because of the volume of air that you're actually under the boat. I think it's when you can compress that much air. I mean, a 44 tunnel is massive, right? And it's long. I mean, it's a huge boat. So I don't know if you guys watched the video that I did with Hal when I ran like 135 with his 450s on a 44. And you can see when I put it down in the bubble, like the spray changes, everything changes, and you see the whole boat just pick up. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's the amount of air and how deep that thing is up front and then how wide it is. And then when you have that volume of air going to the back, the MTI, it has the teardrop on the back, so it's like on the smaller ones, it's dumping out of there, and that's what's making it do this. And I think you have so much air under that one that it can't dump it out. So
Yeah.
I think it just picks the whole thing up.
Yeah.
That's my guess. I mean, they've spent, I don't know how. I mean, Randy, whatever God he prays to, he needs to thank him, because that's something just hit a home run 2 times in a row. When I ordered the 44, we had just got our second 39, and he called me and said, "This is what we got coming. You want one of the first 5?" I said, "Hell yeah." And my wife's like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I'm crazy. Well, she's like, "Well, we don't have the money for that." And I'm like, "We will in a year, somehow. So we ain't got to worry about it for at least a year. We're good." And and my biggest fear was that when I told Randy that.
Now.
Right, exactly. But my biggest fear was that. It was like, okay, hold on, this 39, man, like, it does everything really, really good. It's one of the best boats out there. It just does everything really good. It's kind of like your 360. Like, it just does everything good. You know, like there's nothing that you go, man, that thing, it doesn't do that. No, it does that. It rides around at 70. It'll ride around at 100. You know, it's pretty good in the chop. It's really good in the rough. So I said, man, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that again with a bigger one, like, you know. And then luckily I knew motors were coming and stuff. So I said, I want the fifth one because I can't afford to get 450s and then take a haircut and buy 500s. I can't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I waited for the fifth one, and when I ran house with the 450s, I was sold because the boat's more efficient. I mean, same propeller as a 39, same pitch, same everything, same power, and it's 2 mile an hour faster. I mean, it won't accelerate the same. It's huge, but it's 2 mile an hour faster. If I put 35s on that thing, it's 2 mile an hour faster than a 39, which is incredible. It's just efficiency.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Randy's got his shit together. V bottoms, cats, all that. So it's cool.
Yeah, the 50s are cool. Even though I gave a driving school in one of those the other day, or not the other day. It was probably about a year ago, and it was me. It was the first time I've ever done a driving school with my wife because check this out, Myrick. They buy a 50, right, brand new, never owned a boat before, ever, of any kind.
Never.
So we go. Nothing. We're pulling out, and he's like, "What's the deal with these red and green things?" I'm like, "Oh my god,
yeah.
That's not what we're here for." So,
yeah. What's
so
with
we go
all
out,
these buttons we have? We have 200 buttons up here.
Keep in mind, the customer also doesn't have a house on the water anywhere. He's like, "I guess I should probably buy a house down here." We do it in Miami, right? So he's like, "I guess I should probably buy a house down here." I'm like, man, sure. Sounds like a plan to me. You know?
Well, you're ready to get into real estate at that point.
Right. So we go, and so my wife's there because he's there to teach his wife like dock lines and bumpers and, just the basics of you're going to go boating, So we get back and they got to haul ass because they got to go they got to get home and they got to get out of there. So he's like, you can use the boat the rest of the day. It's like 3:00 and we're pulling to haul over. And I'm like, no, we're good. We need to get home. He's like, all right, I got to haul ass. So he jumps off the boat. Him and his wife. It's just me and my wife. And I know, Myrick, you've met my wife, but she's, all of 5'1", she's nothing there, she's little. So I'm like, all right, I need 2 bumpers this side. I need, line on the front, line on the back. And that poor thing, man, she's running 50 feet forward, 50 feet back. And I'm like, hurry up. Let's go, hurry up. She's like, I'm trying, it's way too big for me.
Yeah. She got her steps in just from docking the boat.
Exactly.
It's funny when you do it. I mean, especially if you're like, say that you're idling along and you just start walking, you're like, man, feels like I'm on one of those conveyors at the airport where I'm not, it's like amazing how fucking far it is.
Yes, or we tested that one that you repowered the other day, and so we tested that and we got out of that and we got directly in the 38 statement that we had to set up after that, and we get in the 38 statement, which is not a small boat. Okay, I grew up when a 30 Scarab was a big boat. You know what I mean? A 30 center console Scarab, like that was big. So we get back in the 38 statement. I'm like, man, this thing's a dinghy. Like it's tiny, but it's not. It's huge. It's just you get so used to this big, massive boat.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Well, Shaun, you mentioned your driving school, which is GSI High Performance Catamaran Driving School. What is the biggest point that you find that you need to relay to your students in driving a cat?
I would say that changes all the time, right? It really does. It depends on the student, because I've had students that are actually pretty damn good in the boat. Touch running or you wrong. They can handle the boat. They can turn the boat okay. They can do all that stuff, but they've never docked before, so they're a disaster around the docks, and that's what they need to really work on. And they have to understand how it works, And then I've had people that aren't. I do my best when I do them schools to not do a set it here and forget it type deal. I try to explain to them in the classroom portion. We really talk a lot about how cats work and setup of cats, and we do that so that they have a background of mechanically how it works, because a lot of these guys that buy these nowadays have never really had a cat before, but many are mechanical, many understand the physics of it, and most all of them are type A personality guys. You know what I mean? They've built businesses or whatever, so they can understand, and they're interested in how it works. And if they understand how the boat works, then when we get in it and it does something, or you have a 15 mile an hour headwind in your face and you're running 10% less trim, they can understand why. So that's the biggest thing I teach them, is that that we try to pay attention to everything outside the boat more than inside the boat. The numbers on the dash matter for sure, but what matters more is that you understand what it feels like. And by the time we're done after a day and a half, I give them it's a day and a half, so it's or 2 days max, so it's a foundation. They're not a finished product by any means, but what I want them to understand is how the stuff works, and then go, okay, like my goal is that when I see them in a year, I hop in the boat with them, we go for a ride, and we turn into a headwind and they bump it down. They're not staring at the dash. They just bump it down because they need to bump it down. That's what they,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's what they feel. So I try to teach them. Those are the main things I try to teach them. Then we work a lot on turning the boat because, I mean, the reality is that if someone gets into trouble for the most part because of another boat or because of a situation, they're going to have to usually turn to get out of it. So if I can get them to turn the boat, we turn it harder than they normally would in any really realistic circumstance, so that they can get comfortable with it and it becomes natural how you do it. So in other words, you set it, give yourself some margin with some trim, keep some power in it, get the boat to set, know what that feels like, get that contact in the front of the boat so that they know that it's locked in. And then once it's locked in, pay attention to the tail and make sure that it ain't following you. If it ain't following you and it feels locked in, you're pretty much home free. I mean, there's not much you can do as long as you keep power on it. And a lot of guys, I did a really fun one in Lake Cumberland on a DCB with Kieran and
Kelly
and his wife
Oh.
and also two of his friends that are also ordering a DCB, Greg Schaller and his wife. And like they didn't know the basics of like that you need to put power in it to turn it. Like they were nervous with it. They'd start turning it, Myrick, and then they back off on the power. And when you take that leverage away, you're losing 70% of your control. So as soon as I grabbed their hand and pushed the throttle down, all of a sudden the boat just tracked. They're like, oh my God, I would have never guessed that. So you never know what people know and don't know. So you just try to teach them those basics, and then hopefully they can get a feel once we're in the boat, and then they can mimic that and they can continue to work on it. And then the last thing that I do is, the class is a starting off point. They all have my direct cell phone number. So all the time, if there's ever anything they need to ask or not sure of, just call me. Just send me a text. Hey, the boat did this today. It was weird. Hey, I did this today, and man, I didn't feel right. Or did I do this right? That's what we're here for. We try to make this safe. The only thing that can mess up our industry is we hurt people. That's really it. Because the boats are awesome to use now. They're easy to use, and anybody can use them.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, Shaun, you just wrapped up an amazing F1 career overseas, and so congratulations to you on a remarkable career. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
What do you mean, being old and retired?
What's it feel like? So obviously, retirement will be one day for me. What's it like to retire from something you love? It's got to be painful. It's got to be painful.
Was it tough to walk away?
So in some ways it is. Like always, like you never know when you're right. So like I'm a big let the universe tell you what to do guy. You know what I'm saying? So like just there's signs, there's things that happen. And when I say that, it's very rarely big things like, oh, I crashed or what. That's part of it, right? So that's not really what it is. But like I talked about earlier, I was been really blessed in the last 7 or 8 years for what we built here. Okay. And business wise, and all the people that rely on me here, business wise. And then you couple that with the racing I started here a couple years ago in stock class, and now getting lucky to be able to race 450 as well. And so it got down to a point where I actually, even last year and even the year before when I won the championship, the week or 2 weeks before the race, I get a knot in my stomach and I couldn't sleep. And it wasn't because of the race. The race is the easy part. It's because I was leaving. It's because I was going to Indonesia and was going to be 12 hours ahead. And that's not the same as going to St. Louis. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. I can't run the business the same way. I can't be as available. And the reality is me and my wife have a plan. And every week I spent over there could delay that plan or put that plan at risk, right? Or slow down us getting to that point. And I got to the point where I felt selfish by continuing to go over there. That's really what it came down to. I was like, I'm doing this. Okay, why am I doing it? Well, I'm competitive. I love being in the boat. I love driving that thing. But I've won 3 world championships. I told myself I just wanted to be world champion once in that. That's all I said. So at what point do you go, okay, well, what else is there to be over here for? You know, it just got to be too much. And you have to at some point, and this sucks, but you got to grow up. You got to say, you know
Yeah,
what? This sucks, but I got to make an adult decision here, you know?
Yeah, I'm still working on that.
Well, no, but there's a balance to that though. And what I mean by that is this: I could not at this point, or I can't see even in the future, anytime soon, of not being able to scratch that competitive itch.
This podcast is powered by Speedboat Magazine. Subscribe now at speedboat.com for 9 power-packed current issues a year direct to your mailbox.